how do you think, like, how does gossip affect people? Like, when they're getting gossiped about, what are they doing? What do they do about it?
Okay.
And what happens to them?
All right. So are you talking about like at church?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, gossip is what creates division.
Okay.
So often in churches. And not just in churches, it can be in workplace environments too. I mean, I know some companies, they will actually build it into their contract that gossip is a fireable offense because they don't want there to be a division and a divisiveness within their company. And so I think that's how big of a deal gossip is, because if I'm talking bad about people, right? And that's kind of like that's what I'm doing. That's what everyone begins to do. They're talking, then no one's gonna be trusting each other. No one's going to be comfortable with each other. And it just brings this division. And I think a pretty good rule of thumb is if someone is constantly gossiping to you, they're probably gossiping about you as well.
Right.
Because it's obvious they don't know how to kind of keep a controlled, a controlled mouth on themselves, And so I think if you find someone that's just constantly gossiping, then I would not want to entrust, secrets or be in confidence with them about things.
So you think that the gossip anywhere is the sin? Anywhere you do it? At work or at church?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case for any of the sins in our lives.
Okay.
It's not just localized to, well, is it happening in a church setting? Is it happening anywhere? Because it's not like, like the old phrase, well, I'm not going to say that I'm in the house of God. Oh, but you'll say that somewhere else as if that's different somehow.
Well, is it different in the sense that church gossip could be trying to hurt my chances with Jesus or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like for me, gossip's gossip, whether it's happening in the church, outside the church.
Okay.
Yeah, gossip's gossip.
Because if I get kicked out of the church I'm connected to, for my sins being revealed through gossip,
okay,
or versus lose my job because my boss doesn't like what they heard I did, isn't that worse?
Is it the job, like losing the job, worse, or
no,
getting kicked out of the church worse?
Kicked out of the church worse.
I mean, I think both are pretty bad.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, so and you've.
I guess I'm making the comparison of like gossip at church could potentially have eternal consequences for someone.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Versus
not
worldly
just,
consequences.
And I'm following you now, because you're not saying just their act of gossip,
right?
But the fact that someone is gossiping about them has led to this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm following you now. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. Like, because if I'm constantly being gossiped about, and it becomes evident to me that I'm constantly being gossiped about in the church setting, then why would I want to stay there?
Right. Or go to any church.
So I'm out.
If I get fired from my job, I go get another job.
Right. No, I think that's a great point, actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm tracking with you now, because it's not just about you were gossiping. It's about the fact people were gossiping about you. And that's what led to your being fired or led to you being kicked out of the church. Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's a huge difference. Because now if someone is kicked out of the church, let's say, and I don't know how often that would actually really happen, but I'm willing to go along with your hypothetical here. But if someone ends up, I think the more the likely scenario, more than them just being kicked out, is them just getting tired of it.
Or feeling so ashamed that everybody at the church knows their thing that they don't feel comfortable anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a huge deal. And so they leave.
Right.
And if they leave and they don't connect back to another church, or they leave and they're so hurt that they don't just leave church, but they leave Jesus, right?
Right.
They leave the faith. That's by far their bigger issue.
Okay.
Does
that make it worse if I'm doing it at church? Like if I were the one gossiping, does that make?
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in other words, can your consequences be greater?
Right.
Sure, because now we're talking about eternal consequences versus temporal consequences.
Okay.
But I guess I was saying sin is still sin.
Okay.
Whether it's happening one place or the other, it's still sin. And I do think if we're slandering, or gossiping, maybe it's not even just, it's not just that I'm making up things. It's just that I'm, telling people about their past or telling people about their present struggles without their permission, and definitely without them wanting other people to know about it. Yeah, now I'm really hurting them and the church. And I hurt their chances of being probably welcomed in and accepted by more people in the church. And that in turn will affect them if they feel like they're constantly being rejected by people in the church. I mean, who would want to voluntarily go someplace where you're constantly being rejected?
Right.
Or who would want to voluntarily go someplace where you're constantly being talked about? That doesn't make any sense, right? The job, you'll tolerate it because at least you're getting income. I'm gaining something from it. In church, I am choosing voluntarily to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know why any of us would want to put ourselves in that position. And gossip can do, just irreparable damage.